thank you, Boris. Thank you for the invitation. It's an honor for me to be in your conference. And I know that it's quite hard to organize a conference. So before starting, I would like also to give a word to everyone that was involved on the organization of the event. I know that in a normal situation that's quite hard, and it's even harder in the current, let's call it normal situation, where everyone is remote. But also an appreciation word to all the speakers. Because everyone that is a speaker, everyone that goes to the stage knows that it's a challenge role. But when you go to the stage, part of your energy is what you receive from the audience. And unfortunately, due to this pandemic, right now we are not able to get that energy. So for all the speakers, that makes the work even harder, okay? Especially if you are finishing the conference like today. But let me jump to my slides. Let me see if I can share my screen. Can you see it? Yeah, I hope so. Okay, so I will talk about the missing T in IoT. It's not a technical talk, let's say, but it's hopefully in the end of the day, in the end of this conference for the first day, to increase your awareness about what is IoT, and even more important, what are the impacts, what happens if we do not have the right focus from the testing perspective when we are dealing with IoT. So I will not spend a lot of time talking about me. I'm software tester, mobile program manager. I'm from Portugal. That small piece of land that you will see in the map. Usually that's the part where I will offer a bottle of wine, a port wine, for the best question. In the end, well, I will need to leave that for the next occasion. But if you don't know Portugal, you should. Okay, right now I think I know that it's quite hard, but after this pandemic, just give us a visit. So all the testers like some numbers, right? We live with numbers.
Joel, sorry, but we cannot see your share screen, my friend.
Cannot?
Yeah, unfortunately, no.
Can you see now?
Yes,
Okay,
perfect.
Great.
Sorry for the interruption.
Sorry. No problem, my fault. Okay, so yeah, so now you can see this small piece of land here. That's possible. Okay, so let's talk about the numbers. So as I said, all the testers they like numbers, right? So we know the coverage, the percentage of tests passed. So we love numbers. So what do you think about this big number? 5 billions, almost 6 billions. That's a big number. 5.0. 5.8. And you think, well, this is a big number. Yeah, but it's not IoT. Okay, this is just about the connected to mobile service, or the persons connected to mobile service by 2025. Of course, these are estimates, and 79% using smartphones. So I know that some persons call smartphones also IoT device. Some they say they disagree on that. For me, a smartphone is also an IoT device, and actually, in my opinion, a very powerful IoT device. Okay, so talking about IoT device, it's even a bigger number. So it's a huge number. 75 billion connected devices estimated by end 2025. And if you look to different studies, different analyses, they will give you different numbers. Okay, it can be 75, it can be 25, 50. It doesn't matter. It's still a big number. Whatever number you look to, it will be a big number. It's a huge number. I will dare to say that it's the hugest number that you have right now on the IT industry. So several reports that are available. For example, this one from Vodafone, the IoT barometer for 2019. They say that 34% of the companies are now using, or 34 more companies are now using IoT comparing to the previous year, 2018, comparing for 2019. And yeah, so all of these reports are mostly focused on the let's say the industry point of view for IoT. And that's also one of the challenges on IoT. So you have IoT in different fields. You have IoT from the military, from the home appliance, all these devices that you can bring with you, even devices that you can have inside, okay? Your cars, your smart cars, all these devices in industry, in the public sector, so you have IoT everywhere, and that's part of the challenge. But most the second number is also quite interesting, because from the business point of view, 74 of the companies believe that if they are not using IoT, they will fall behind. Okay, so it's a trend, but it's an increasing trend. And it's driven also by the business. They believe they need to be in this trend, or they will be out of the business. So, what is IoT? So, as I said before, there is no, you don't have just a single device, IoT device. You have multiple devices in multiple areas. So, depending on the areas, the device can also be quite different, right? And also from the testing point of view. So it's the same with the definition. So you have multiple definitions about IoT. So I just grabbed some of these with some highlighted keywords. I'm not expecting you to read all of them. The slides will be available, but just some keywords. So you have the network of physical devices. So you have some physical devices. It's not just software. You also have hardware. And you have some sensors, some actuators, and you have connectivity to connect and exchange data. So you have network, you have hardware, the sensors, you have the connectivity, and you exchange the data. Another definition where it talks about the global infrastructure, about service, again, to connect physical and virtual things, right? So whatever the thing is, it's to connect them. And we have another one where it says that exploitation is actually a good word when you're talking about IoT. So you have identification, data capture, processing, communication. So it's all about this data. Again, the things and the service, ensuring security and privacy. Okay, think a little bit on that. Think about your device. Think about your IoT device. And I will dare to say that all of you will have at least one, if not more, IoT device right now. Okay, so if you have a smartphone, you will have an IoT device. And think about security and privacy. So your phone can have a unique identification. Yes, if you are connected, you have an IP address. If you are connected to Bluetooth, you also have your unique identification. You have that ID. And it can capture data, lots of data, processing and communication. So you can process all data, and you can send also and receive data, right? It's a thing, for sure. And it offers all these kind of service, ensuring security and privacy. Did it ever happen to you? I don't know if you have a Siri or Google activated, Google Assistant. Did it ever happen to you that you are talking with, with your wife, with your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, with your friends about something, and then next minute you open the browser and you start receiving all these advertisements, all these ads about what you just talked about? Okay, so do you believe on this security and privacy? It's quite concerning, right? But that's our world, that's our reality. Of course, you can turn it off, but some things you cannot turn 100% off, and you will always have some privacy concerns. Another definition that talks more about a vision. So it's not something that you can achieve. It's like a long term. It's like a goal that you walk to achieve, with impacts on the technical side, on technological side, but also on the social implications, for sure. The next generations, they will born already. They will start the life with the IoT as a default. They will have different privacy concerns, for sure. But you think it could be a privacy concern for us? It's not for our kids. It will not be for their kids, for sure. So we are talking about all these things, but actually, what can be a thing in the Internet of Things, in the IoT. So we are talking about the system, all these computing devices, some mechanical things, some digital things, some objects, animals, people. So yes, so ourselves or the animals, they can also be things in the world of the IoT. As long as we have the unique identifier, as long as we are able to transfer this data without requiring any interaction. Okay, think again on your phone. You're sending data even without asking you, right? Without requiring you to do anything. So all of these can be seen as IoT device, okay? So it's not just hardware, it can be also a living being. So any object that can be assigned this unique identifier and that can be provided with this ability to transfer data over a network, okay? So probably in the future, I don't know, we will have some things in our body to be able to transmit that data. Today, we already have some examples of that. I will talk about that later on. So think on IoT as anything can be a thing on IoT, okay? And today we are seeing objects that were not traditional IoT device, and now they are becoming more and more, right? The lamps, for example, the vacuum cleaners, they were not IoT device. They were just typical offline devices, right? That you need to use. Right now, you can control them over the internet. You can start off the world, and you can turn off your lights, or you can start your vacuum cleaner to clean your house. You can control a drone. You can do all these kind of things remotely. That's quite powerful, but it's also quite, or can be quite dangerous. So do you remember the Charles report? At least the other ones, I think they remember that. So the Charles report, they said that 46% of the projects were successful, 19 failed. Okay, and the other ones, they had some kind of challenge. Of course, this was before Agile. Now with the Agile, there are no problems. Everything, all the projects are successful, or at least if they fail, it's okay to fail in Agile. So it's like a negative test. You're already expecting to fail, so it's successful. It counts as a successful result. So this is about the traditional, let's call it traditional projects. So what about the IoT projects? Do you think they also fail? Well, I don't know if you have experience with IoT, if you have experience with IoT projects, but yes, they also fail. And everything in IoT, it's big. So you have big numbers, and they also fail big. Okay, and I remember Boris used to share this Fat Fingers website. So the IoT projects, they fail, and they have this why IoT projects fail. So when you have a website, that like this, that they fail. 75% considered to be failed projects. And when you are talking about IoT, they have different phases. Okay, so 30% they don't even reach out of the proof of concept. So that's the initial phase. And yes, this a sponsored a sponsor report, but I think contains lots of good information. So if you want to know a little bit more about IoT, you can go to this website, and you will find lots of useful information in a very detailed report. So why do they fail? Okay, so when we are talking about these IoT projects, and again, please keep in mind that IoT, it's not something easy to define from the in this case, from the testing point of view. As a project of IoT, it can be multiple things, quite different. And the project itself, the way we approach the project also needs to be different, right? If we are testing IoT medical device, it cannot be the same as testing IoT lamp, right? A smart lamp. the impact is not the same. The risk is not the same. The hardware is not the same. The sensors are not the same. So we need to understand the context of the IoT device and how to adapt, how to adjust to that. So why they fail? Okay, so we already saw that they fail a lot. Okay, but why? Well, why not? So we have these devices that can be used at any time, right? It's like a 24/7 device. It's not like, oh, only use it at night or only use it during the working times. No, you can use them at any time, right? But not just at any time, but at any place. So for the IoT, the environment, it's quite important. Okay, usually these devices have sensors that collect information, that collect data from the environment. Things like the temperature, for example, if you have a smart thermostat, it's important, right? But remember, Sarah talked about mobile testing, and when we are talking about mobile testing, we have these labs, yes, but we need to go to the field, right? We need to go outside to use the mobile phones, the mobile apps in the real environment where the users will use it. That's when we start to find all the issues. With IoT, that's even more critical. It's even more important, right? If we are testing a smart car, we cannot just stay in the lab, right? We need to go and drive it, right? And drive it in different conditions. We go to the desert, we go to the to the snow, to the low temperatures. So we need to drive it in all these places, in all these different conditions. So that's a big challenge. We are talking about IoT, and most of the IoT devices, if we are talking about small device, small companies, there is no budget for that. So we test it in a controlled environment, right? But it can be anything. So IoT, it's not just a single device. We have a huge challenge comparing IoT with mobile. We have a huge challenge on mobile because we have all these amount of different devices, right? We have all these different models. Hopefully, for iOS, it's a smaller number of devices. But if you compare, number of devices, number of operating systems, all these Android devices, all the Android operating systems that you have, all the versions, all the special firmwares, all of that, you have a huge number of devices to test, right? But when you are talking about IoT, that number just explodes. And not just explodes, but when you are talking about mobile testing, you can move from one app to the other, right? The context of the business, the context of the app, it can be different, yes, but it's still a mobile app. It's still a mobile phone with a mobile app that you need to test. When we are talking about IoT, the hardware can be completely different. The protocols, the communication, the data generated can be completely different. So it's not so easy to move from one device to the other. You have some specific characteristics that will be unique for each device. Besides that, you have the different layers. So besides any time, any place, anything, you also have different layers. And as the testers, we always know what it means. When you have a layer, it's a potential point of failure, right? It's just another place where something can go wrong. So you have the application itself, but we also have the service, like the data processing or data storage service layer. Okay. Besides that, you also have the network layer. That is quite important when we are talking about IoT, and it can be Wi-Fi, can be 3G, 5G, it can be just a Bluetooth, it can be a Zigbee. So you have all these different networks, all these different protocols. So it's not just a single one. Okay, again, that's the complexity when we are talking about IoT. And then you have the device itself. Okay, so where you have all the hardware, all the sensors that are able to capture the data. So in any of these layers, something can go wrong. Or, Murphy law, it can go wrong in multiple layers at the same time. So when you have all of these together, if you think a little bit, you have everything to have a failed project, right? You cannot expect anything else. So to have that 75% of projects failing, for me, it's not really a surprise because of the complexity, because of the challenge that we have when we are dealing with IoT. So talking about challenge, from the testing perspective, what are the challenges that we have? We have lots of challenges. So it's testing IoT. It's not a simple job. It's not a simple thing to do. So regarding the challenge, to start, what I already told before, all these different devices. Okay, so we know that when we are testing, we need to understand the context, right? Again, all these devices, they will provide you a different context, not just the device itself, but also the infrastructure, the environment where that device needs to be deployed. Okay. Again, if it's healthcare related device, it needs to be deployed in a specific environment. If it's a home appliance, right, you need to deploy it in a home-like environment. So all these devices, all these different different hardwares, different softwares, different protocols, they will not allow you to just focus and say, okay, I'm testing IoT. And then you have another tester that's also testing IoT, and probably they are doing things completely different. So it's not like mobile testing, okay? So again, the protocols, I already talked a little bit about this, right? You have the network protocols, you have the communication protocols. Besides that, you also have the specific application protocols on top of the communication protocols. So just talking on the protocols for communication, you have the Wi-Fi, 3G, 4G, 5G, you have the Bluetooth, you have Zigbee. Those are the most common Bluetooth, but you have more protocols, right? Specific protocols, and it's not like you have a single standard that everyone is following. And again, besides the communication, you also have the specific application protocol. So that's also a challenge, and it's a challenge from the learning point of view. Besides that, we have the user interface. So the user interface in most of these devices, they do not have a user interface, or they have a limited user interface. And when you are dealing with this device, you also need to interface with them, right? If they provide an API that you can use, like a REST API, some of them do that, great. But IoT is also about the hardware. So you need to interact with the hardware. So if we are talking about, for example, test automation, you need to build something that, besides software, will also be able to interact with the hardware, pushing on buttons or reading LCD screens, for example. These are the typical use case for automation where you will need something else. It's not just some scripts on Selenium and that's it. No, you will need to build also your own framework on top of the existing frameworks to be able to handle to handle all of these. And some user interface, they will not provide you the immediate feedback. For example, if you are working with a smart meters for the power consumption in the home, so you can interact with them. They have interface where you can send them comments, but it's not like you send now and you can see the result right away. No, you will see the result, for example, at night when the device will process that comment. So you need to wait to see the result of the interaction. and you send it through a REST service, for example, and then you will need to see that on an LCD. So you need to design your test strategy also to be able to handle all of these situations with techniques that will help you to, like, for example, accelerate the time, right? To change the clock. But whenever you are changing something in your test infrastructure, you are also interfering with the object of your test. So you also need to be careful not to create side effects when you are changing your object for the testing purpose. Okay, data in and out. So all these devices, they produce a huge amount of data. But in most of the case, they also need data. Okay, so for example, if you have a smart thermostat, of course, it will produce data about the temperature, but the data that it needs, also the temperature itself also needs to change, right? So you need to control the input and the output. For a tester, you know that's quite important, but how to do it when you are dealing with IoT? So when you are dealing with the inputs, usually you can work with two different techniques. So you can provide the specific input and then, of course, compare the output, or you can use what we call in the testing as an oracle, right? So you can use, for example, a different system for the same purpose. If you have a smart thermostat, you can have another smart thermostat, both of them measuring the temperature, and then you compare. Okay, and it's not guaranteed that they will have the same, but usually you can have this kind of approach. So sometimes you cannot just have a fake input, so you need to have another system that will validate that you are getting the right output. Depending on the system, that can be quite complex. And the amount of data that you get, it's also not so easy to validate. That's where analytics, artificial intelligence can help a lot. Because when you are getting all these huge amount of data, how do you know that it's valid? How do you know that data does not have any error? That's a big issue when we are talking about IoT, because if the data is wrong, right, then you'll feed that data to the next system that will process the wrong data with the wrong output, with the wrong conclusions, right? So the data in the IoT, usually it's quite important say task from the validation point of view. Then you also have the complexity. Okay, I already stressed this, but you have the complexity, not just the software, not just the hardware, but also the environment where this needs to be deployed. Okay, so all these systems, they are pretty complex. And you know, when something is complex, it also increases the risk for software testing. It doesn't make our life easy, right? So if it's a simple system, simple to test, yeah, that's great. If it's a complex system with lots of variables, lots of things that can go wrong, it could be the case that we spend more time testing it than what was required to build it. So that's the challenge. And we are talking also about the resource. Again, to have a mobile lab or a cloud, it's, you know, in our days, yeah, it can be expensive, but it's something that is easy to manage, right? But to have a lab that is able to, that you can use to test different devices, usually that's quite expensive. That can be quite expensive, again, depending on the device, right? But it's not so easy to build that kind of lab. Right? It's not like just putting the phones in a wall and you have a mobile test lab. No, it's not just like that. So you need to have specific dedicated hardware, not just for the environment, but also for the networking, for example. Okay, Even on mobile, I don't know many companies that do that, like simulate different Wi-Fi conditions. Okay, I'm not talking about 3G or 4G or whatever. No, I'm just talking about different network configurations, different Wi-Fi configurations. I challenge you to go to, for example, to a shopping mall, and probably you will find out 3 or 4 different networks, and most probably none of them will have the same configurations. Okay, so if you try to understand a little bit the configuration of the network, what are the IPs that are whitelisted, if they have a capture screen, if they require you to be authenticated, if they just provide you a sign-up page, all of that. It's different from network to network. So that's something that you can test with mobile device, and not everyone is doing it. With IoT, the effort, the money, the budget required, it's much higher than that. Okay, so that's also a challenge, to make sure that you are able to test your device in a similar environment where it will be used. Especially because it can be used, most of these devices can be used in any place at any time. So it's really hard to try to reproduce that. Besides that, there is also the knowledge, okay, so the skills. We are not just talking about software testing, okay? We are not just talking about software, not just about the business or about IT. We are also talking about the hardware, also talking about all the sensors, all the signals from the sensors, about the data, data analytics, data processing. We are talking about protocols, communications. So all of that, it requires different areas of expertise. So if it's already a challenge to ask to be a tester, to be a good tester, where you need to know about software testing, about IT, about software development, about the business. When you are talking about IoT, again, that explodes. The challenge, it's much bigger, okay? I'm, again, talking about IoT in a generic way. I know that some IoT devices are quite specific, and if you're only testing that, your challenge will be smaller. Okay, but if you are talking about IoT as a global market, that can be quite challenging. So to be able to provide support for IoT, you need to be specific on what type of IoT device do you support. Okay. And last but not least, security. Okay, so security, it's actually, in my opinion, the T that is missing. So the security tests are the ones that are missing more on the IoT device. Okay, so we are talking about the challenging of having something that works. Right, that was the initial challenge when we are talking about IoT. So when we start to talk about the connected cars, the challenge was to be able to send and receive data from one car to the other, okay, or from one car to the cloud, to be able to talk with the car, to be able to receive the data, to be able to send the data. That was the challenge. No one was thinking about security. What is the consequence of that? The consequence is that some of these protocols, they are not even encrypted. So it's just plain text, passing. Because, security was not a concern, because the hardware that was available was not so powerful, so they didn't want to overload it with the algorithms to encrypt. So security was not really on top of the table. But now it is, and it will be even more. Okay, so security, it's a big concern, and it will increase even more on the next and the following months and years. And we are seeing that almost every single day there is something in the news about some security break, and the industry, and you see this IoT, it's not a bug, it's industrial Internet of Things. So why they failed? They failed mainly you see this big number again, 62% related with security concerns. So that's one big reason why they fail projects. More than half of the projects, and 60% they say also that they don't know what to do with the data. So they have all this data, and they don't know what to do with it. So I think that will come because with IoT producing all this data, with AI that requires all this data, with the computational power that is increasing every single day, with the cloud infrastructures, all of these will come together, and we will find out something useful to do with all this data sooner or later. But right now, some companies they don't plan in advance. As I said, they just believe that they need to do IoT. It's a little bit like agile. Oh, we need to go agile. Why? Because it's trendy, because we went somewhere, some conference, a manager said you need to do agile. Okay, so this more or less the same. So sometimes they just start an IoT project without understanding what they want to achieve. And in the end of the day, they just receive lots of data without understanding what to do with it. Since Spav also said that the only system which is truly secure is the one that is switched off and unplugged. Well, if we do that, we will not be talking about IoT, right? It's just the thing, not the Internet of Things. So they need to be connected. They need to be a switch on, and more than switch on, they need to be connected. They need to send and receive data. So this is not an option when we are talking about IoT. So the security concern, it's quite big, and even OWASP, for the ones that know this list, probably it will be updated this year. You can see that just focus on the top three. Okay, the top three are quite basic ones. We are not talking about complex attacks. We are not talking about security flaws that you will require you to do a huge amount of work, of effort to try to break it. We are talking about weak passwords. We are talking about guessable or hard-coded passwords. We are talking about insecure network service. So you just need to put the traffic, and you can read everything that is being exchanged. Insecure ecosystem. So even if your system is secure, it's IoT, so it needs to connect to other systems. So it means that all the other systems also need to be secure. If you have one part of the system that is not secure, it means that all your network, all your system is also insecure. Okay, and sometimes that's the node that you expect last to be insecure. Okay, so it's not easy, right? From a testing perspective, it's not easy. So we have all these different types of tests. We have the usability, you have compatibility, reliability. They need to be a reliable device. They will be running 24/7, right? Data integrity. So all the data, you need to trust the data that all these devices are producing. If you don't trust them, then we have a big problem. And performance. Even for the simple ones. So when you have a smart lamp, right? You click on the phone or you click on the wall, and you expect the light to turn on immediately, almost real time. You don't expect to count 1, 2, 3, and the light comes, right? That's not what you expect. So performance, even they don't care if it's if you connect your device to your own network, from your own network to the hub, from the hub with Zigbee to the lamp that is on the other side of your house. With all these network, with all these latency, with all these different protocols. As a user, you don't care about that. You just push the button and you expect to see light, right? Because that's what happens with a normal device. A smart device should be better, not slower, not worse, right? So that's what you also expect. And then you also have, again, this required set of skills. I already talked about this, but just to reinforce. So it's not just about the test skills, but also about the hardware, the networking, the analytics. All of these are required, the test environments, okay? And lots of companies that are, of course, we have the big ones, the big fish, but we also have lots of these IoT devices that are built with small startups, right? Where the quality mindset is not there, simple, is not there. And the minimum value product, it should not, but in some cases, it means lack of quality. You just need to ship something quick and fast. Sometimes it's quick and dirty. Okay, I had an experience with a company that was working on the IoT device, and they called me and said, "Well, we need some help. We need to build a testing team. So we do not have anyone doing tests." Okay, and then I started to work with them, helping them to recruit testers. And from one day to the other, they vanished. They went ready off. I said, "What happened?" Nothing. They didn't reply. Nothing. Guess what? 1 year later, they called me again and said, well, we need help. We need to build a testing team. I said, really? Didn't you ask that last year? I said, yes. But then we had a customer that came in and they wanted the product, so we couldn't spend any money, effort, time building the test team. So now we have the product live in production, but no quality, no software testing, nothing, zero. So now we need to build it. As a tester, the quality does not come in the end. It needs to be built from the beginning. So you can see the problem that they had to solve, right? So last part, I will.
Sorry, but we are finishing, if you don't mind. And we also have a poll about IoT. Should I share it now, or should I give you a couple
Can you give me just a couple of minutes? Yeah. How many minutes?
Okay.
5 minutes?
Oh, 5 is probably too much, but
2? Okay, 2 minutes. Okay, I will just go through some quick examples, okay, so that you can understand. So this was one of the first. Sorry, I misunderstood the timer. I understood that I had 45 minutes. I realize now that I only had 40. So regarding the IoT device, this was one of the first ones that I was aware that was active through Bluetooth. This was as you can see from the image, is a toilet that you can control from your phone using Bluetooth, and you can see all the fun that you could have hacking your neighbor's toilet. But you also have these webcams, even the most expensive ones. They have poor security. There was a case of a kid that was afraid to sleep because there was a voice coming not just from the cam, but the cam with the microphone and with the speaker, and there was a voice coming from the cam, the webcam. So he was afraid. And as I said, you don't need a lot of work. You just go to this website that I'm showing here, and you can see the search. You have already have a search with 5,000 cams, where the password is admin, then they are available. You just need to go there and connect, or webcams with the bedroom. So you just go there and you have all these available. You have the lights, again, quite impressive. And if you believe that the weakest part, it's the hub where you have all the power, it's not. It's on the lamp itself. They can hack the lamp, and then from the lamp, go to your network. The fridge, it's again, a smart fridge can bring your smart grid completely down. And if you look to the news, you will see lots of news about power grids that were attacked using smart device. And also pacemakers, a big number of pacemakers. And it's not just to be able to control the pacemakers, but one of the last tests, they were able to install malware in the pacemaker. So next minute you can see someone that is able to dig bitcoins in a pacemaker. Cars, you can see this nice screen, and a car, it should be just hardware to drive, and it's not. It's becoming more and more hardware, and IoT, it's in there, right, all over the place. So even the flights, everything can be active because everything is connected. That's a big risk. So if I have one minute, final takeaways. Okay, I will be quick. IoT is the next, and I cut next because it's not next, it's already there, it's out there. So it's a big thing, scope, complexity, challenge, but it requires some change. You need to have a multidisciplinary team, and you need to have specific resource. And security testing is critical for success. It's not just for IoT, but even more for IoT, because if something fails on IoT, it can cause serious damage, okay? And it will not be alone. IoT and artificial intelligence, they will come together, they will interact, and coverage to grow and to finish. The future is just starting. So the rise of machines, it's just around the corner. And I believe tomorrow you will also start today with the talk about that. So sorry for these minutes, I misunderstood the time.
Let's ask the poll question, and then we can comment about the answers.
Yeah.
What is specific about in testing IoT? IoT test etmede özel olan nedir? So we have two options. Trends are temporary, testing is forever. Or IoT requires distinctive testing methodologies and tools. Let's wait everyone to submit. Let's see. What do you think? Which option will be?
I hope that is the second, because as I try to explain, when we are testing IoT, of course, the testing techniques and the knowledge needs to be there. But we need to have some specific things to be able to test IoT, the hardware, the environment, all of that.
Okay. We are waiting for the results now.
Okay.
Thank you. It was really your examples were really interesting. Your presentation. Thank you for that. Let's see the results. It's coming. Yeah. Okay. Almost half enough.
Yeah. Well. Yeah, the trends are temporary, but IoT, it's not temporary. IoT, it came to stay, and it will be even more. If you look around, you will see that the number of IoT devices that you have today, it just went crazy. Okay, look around you. You have more IoT devices than what you think. Okay, in your car, in your phone, everywhere.